This is good news. In 2020, we had a once-in-a-lifetime, hopefully, pandemic that implicated the entire world.
Yeah.
And our society in particular is particularly vulnerable to a pandemic, despite the fact that we're the richest country in the world. Despite the fact that we theoretically have the most resources to deal with it, we have the least sort of cohesive social safety net of any country in the West. We had forces in this country that were determined not to lose money and to exploit this opportunity at every turn, and were willing to fund a huge COVID denial program, including the president, frankly, at the time. Because, if you can work from home, you want to send the other workers in to go do the work, and you can go enjoy,
bring DoorDash?
The benefits. Exactly. And one of the things that, as opposed to other countries around the world, we had an increase in violent and crime of all sorts, frankly. Much more so than in other countries. And I think a big part of that is, and who was it that we had spoken to about the who had the book on 2020?
Eric Kleinenberg.
Eric Kleinenberg, made the point that like our the fabric of our society is woven in a different way than other societies, and instead of coming together to fight this thing, it actually pulled us apart in many respects. Nevertheless, increasingly, the phenomena of the pandemic, though not COVID itself, is in our rearview mirror, at least in terms of what it did to broad strokes, within our society and the way our society functioned. And as it gets further in the rearview mirror, you start to see things like crime plunging. New numbers show violent crime from January to March dropped 15.2% compared to the same period in 2023. Murders fell 26.4%, and reported rapes decreased by 25.7%. Aggravated assaults decreased during that period when compared to last year by 12.5%, according to the data, while robberies fell 17.8%. Now, look, we're not giving the raw statistics because, A, many crimes go unreported. But there's no reason to believe that there's any more crimes being unreported this year than there was last year or the year before.
Right.
There's absolutely no reason to think that the rate of reporting, whatever it is, has changed. There's also no reason to think that police forces have less of incentive to increase the amount of crimes that are taking place than they did before either.
Right.
Because that's how their budgets are determined.
I mean, if you're going to say that these law enforcement organizations or the FBI are not being truthful or haven't been, because this is how historically we've tracked crime, then you would, I think, have to make the case, why would they want to downplay crime?
Because they want to make Biden look good.
Right.
Well, deep state.
But that's again, so if you want to go down that road, I think that you're in conspiracy-minded cuckooville.
They don't want Trump, so they're lying.
But because law enforcement, we know, trends right, they want more money. By definition, it just makes it more sense for them if they're going to do anything to this or be untruthful about the statistics. They would inflate crime rates.
Yes, but either way, there's no reason to think they're going to be more untruthful this year than last year, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and we should say this is only about 75% of the law enforcement agencies that report, about almost 14,000 of the about 19,000 law enforcement agencies from across the country. But statistically speaking, for these numbers to be incorrect, at least for the first 3 months of the year, those other whatever it is, 5,000 law, the crime would have had to have shot through the roof.
That would have to be all of like the Gotham cities from the Batman
Exactly.
the Batman trilogy to make up for to say that we're going back down from say a 26.4% murder decrease from the same time period in 2023 for I guess it's around 73%. So for the remaining 27% of those districts or police precincts, they would have to be the most crime-ridden places throughout the country for that to be an increase in murder rates.
We still have 6 more months left in this year. Who knows? Maybe the crime rates will pick up. Maybe they'll drop more. Jeff Asher, criminal justice analyst and co-founder of the consulting firm Datalytics, says it's plausible that this will be, by far, the largest one-year decline in American history. Which is not, shocking in the sense that we're in the wake of a big increase that was a function of a pandemic.
Yeah. And also, this is in keeping with data that we received a few months ago from the FBI, which again just aggregates the statistics from these police agencies, law enforcement agencies, which also showed that murders were down broadly before, I guess, they added some of this data. So it's in keeping with what we've seen as it relates to 2023, now that more information is coming in.
So
that's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
I know there are people who have heavily invested in the idea that somehow there's a lot more crime in this country, not least amongst them Donald Trump, who wants to pretend like this is Gotham, and was all excited to, at the Republican National Convention, talk about how, America has fallen into this sort of like dystopian society. But it's just not the case. In the words of Marlowe from The Wire, you want it to be one way, but it's the other way. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.